Minister of Power, Engineer Mamman. There are two issues, but the first one has to do with this. Each time we point a finger at a discourse for their non-performance, oh, they are unable to take this because they don't have enough infrastructure, we oftentimes don't remind ourselves that government itself is a shareholder. What has government done with its equity stake in these companies? I mean, if you are a minority shareholder, you can, assuming you are being oppressed, you can rely on minority oppression rules, to get things done. And if indeed, your equity is substantial enough, what is it that has been achieved? In terms of saying, look, discourse, what we are doing is not salutary. We need to move away from what we've been getting on. And I need to remind the Honorable Minister, the one minister of, former Minister of Power, Professor Nebo, at some point indicated that part of their target at the time for discourse was to ensure that their infrastructure for distribution was ramped up considerably. But we appear not to be hearing anything about that. It's all, everything is meter.
Thank you very much. But if you remember from the initial, I told you the major problem of this sector to achieve is the infrastructure. And it is the government all this time, since the inception of this privatization, it is the government that has been taking responsibility of doing the infrastructure instead of the distribution companies who have 60%. It is now the 40% that are using the money to, you can see even the shortfall, from the shortfall. The government, after generating, the GENCO generate electricity to the tune of up to 54 billion naira in every month. And it is only part of it, that is 15% of that money that GENCOs pay. So the government always complete the shortfalls. It is the responsibility of the government. Instead of, say the whole infrastructure is in order so that they can get their money and then pay the GENCOs. It is still the responsibility of the government. Whenever there is a problem in any infrastructure of the distribution company, it is the government that comes in and do the job of a distribution company. So that is the problem, and that is why government is saying, Cement, come and do this thing once and for all, so that at the end of the day we now weigh what you did, and then we check and balance.
There is, under the Federal Ministry of Power, the Rural Electrification Agency. Why should the federal government be responsible for rural electrification? And it turns out that in the past, that ROEA has been an avenue of slits. And some of the persons involved have been tried in the past on account of corruption and so on and so forth. I'm asking this question: what is the responsibility of state governments or even local governments if they cannot deal with rural electrification? Samuel Ogbemudia, when he was military governor of the old Bende, ran ROEB, that is Rural Electricity Board, and it was very efficient. Why is the federal government bothering about rural electrification when the bigger elephant on his head, is still wobbling to steady it?
Well, but we have to be worried. It is the responsibility of both the government, both federal and the state government. In the situation where the state government will tell you have no money to electrify villages, what do you do as a federal government? And you have to provide your people with electricity. And that is why, as a result, it's coming. So it is the responsibility of the REA now to make sure that all those that aren't served, or the ones that are not served, to be served with electricity. That is why we have to come in.
Kieran, I'll just make this point, Kieran. Just a point. But, I don't know how much supervision goes on. Because there are certain communities where the federal government, ROEA, is working to say we are electrifying, and then the state government also is saying that we are bringing electricity to that particular community. You see their cables on the same line.
Honorable Minister, the truth is that there is a lot of jobs to be done in terms of realignment, whatever that it is, because a situation where, as Kingsley explained, the federal government is doing the rural electrification, state government is doing the same thing. It's a duplication of efforts, and if a state government cannot do something about electrifying its localities, it's entirely a different matter. But I want you to come in here. I know you have touched it, initially, and that's the issue of Mambila Mambila, Kashimbila, and what have you. Bring us up to speed with the level of development in those two infrastructure. And that is one. Secondly, Honorable Minister, could there be a policy of government that will enable states, or if you like, regions, so to speak, to get involved in power, so that we will not concentrate on national grid, that so that power can be in such a way that subnational governments can engage in power, so that by the time that is done, we reduce the bulk of what is on the Federal Minister of Power. Is this a possibility?
Yeah, it's very possible. Currently, what we are saying now, the 40% share of the government that we're talking about, 25% of it is mostly state government investment. But the problem is here is that the state government don't want to spend money also for the infrastructure. It is the responsibility of the federal government. That is why we are saying we are coming in through the cement. By the time we finish, we now assess the liquidity and then share the portion again.
Nobody Kashimbela and the Mambila power projects.
So they are also coming in. That is why I say by the time this is completed and commissioned, we are going to increase the generation of the power, the GenCo, with 30%. She is just telling you that it is still not enough with the generating. We still need more, and we're still looking for more investors to come for generation. The only problem we have is the misalignment. Once the alignment is corrected, and everything will flow, and then we will still need more investors to come.